Welcome to the episode of the Bear and Chocky T's Wrestling Recap, where we look at what's happened over the past few weeks from Impact Wrestling and AEW. I'm Jolly the Bear, and as always, my tag team partner, the blade to my butcher, Big Chuck.
How you doing, Mark? Are you okay?
All right, yourself?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
It's been a really interesting few weeks of wrestling since our last show. So before we get into it, let's let everyone know about who we are and what we do. So we are the Bear and Chocky T Wrestling Recap. We, as I said in the intro, what we normally do each and every month is we get together and talk about what's been going on in AEW and Impact Wrestling. We discuss what we'd like to see, what's been going on, rumours, just basically everything that we can think of, and share it with you, the public. So we are relatively a new podcast. However, we've been friends and colleagues for quite a while as part of the Turnbuckle Arms podcast, which we do with the other members of the Brood. They all have their own little podcast as well. And we are actually part of a bigger network, which is the John's podcasting network. Now, if you're new to this or unsure what this is a hub of wrestling content YouTubers and podcasters that have a place to collectively get together and showcase, or should I say, the podders, the John's Wrestling Podcast Network has a area to showcase the best of what there is out there for wrestling content. We've got people from the UK, Canada, America. We've got over 30 podcast groups now, which is brilliant. And as I said, there's something on there for everyone, whether you like weekly reviews, watch-alongs, interviews, or just staff stuff like us. Obviously, we'll get better as we get on. But we're relatively new to do this on our own. So, we'll have the link in the description below to find out where our podcast is, as well as the actual network itself. So, as I said, whether you like Impact, AEW, Ring of Honor, no matter what, there's something on there for everyone. So, as I said, after you've listened to us, go check it out in the link below and enjoy some fantastic content on there. Okay, so back to us now. So it's been roughly 4 weeks since we last got together for our debut show, where we did a bit of a bumper episode talking about what's been going on in Impact and AEW over the last 12 to 14 months since, unfortunately, the world caught fire at that time, and we're coming hopefully to the end of it. Especially in the UK, where we'll be able to see UK wrestling live, which is going to be good. But we're going to get back to what we do, which is talk Impact Wrestling and AEW. So I'm going to start first. I basically run and look after the Impact side of it. Obviously, we'll go through some of the stuff, and I'm going to ask Chris his opinion on certain things. So, without further ado, welcome. So we're going to start, or shall I say we can't start talking about Impact Wrestling since the historic pay-per-view that happened a few weeks ago, which was Rebellion, where we saw debuts, of course, and the main event, which was Rich Swann taking on Kenny Omega in a winner-takes-all match. So let's run through what happened within the show. Ace Austin defended his X Division Championship against former champion TJP and the walking weapon Josh Alexander in what was a fantastic match. Personally, I could watch all three of these all day, as they've got bags of talent, and all three of them, no matter whether they're wrestling themselves or other people, can keep you glued to the screen. It was, as I said, much love for all three of these guys. They're fantastic to keep that X Division prominent and in the eye of people that should be watching it. Again, it's not, if you've not ever seen the X Division, it's basically the cruiserweights. However, they don't really have much of a weight restriction like they used to do. So you can get a mixture of everything, which is quite good, and it actually works really well. So you're never always going to get the same type of match every time you watch them. Yeah, and the champion got beat, and we have a new champ, which is the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. Fantastic. I think he deserves it. He's done fantastic for the company, especially being part of the North as tag team champions with Ethan Page. And yeah, he's doing it really well, and he's already posting videos with him wearing it at the gym, which is actually really cool. I tweeted him saying, he's that new gym belt, and he was like, it's a bit big, but I'll make it work. So I actually quite liked that, and the fact that they all three of them interact with their on social media when people praise them, or even if they ask why you do certain things. So top marks to them. Violence by Design took on Sabin, Storm, Willie Mack, and Eddie Edwards, but as we know, Eric Young is out hurt. So for a one-time only team member, we got the debut of former Big Cass, which was W. Morrissey, and he looked mint. Obviously, he's looked after himself. He's got better. He's clearly been fighting his demons, and it's helped. Obviously, beforehand, he was at a show that Gallows and Anderson was doing, which showcased some Impact stars. So he already knew some of them to start with, but he was absolutely immense in this. He looked brilliant. The match itself, everyone took their turns taking charge. However, Morrissey was the standout in this match, hitting Mac with a big boot and getting the pin, which was actually really cool to have him as debuting in that. So yeah, and as we'll talk about later on, hopefully we're going to see him for quite a bit now. We had Brian Myers defeat Matt Condona, obviously a long-time friends, tag team partners, everything like that. This has been going backwards and forwards quite a bit. It was nice to see a blow-off match between them two now. However, Myers played up the heel character very well and used the emotional strain and pull between them both to get that ultimate win. Obviously, we'll see what goes on down the line, but I think it was a good match, whoever won that one. So I have no problems with that. Rachel Ellering made a debut for the company as the mystery partner for Jordan Grace, as they took on Fire and Flavor of Hogan and Steels for the Knockouts tag title, which they ended up winning. All I can say about this was that all four of them are fantastic in the ring. One thing that I did read about, which I completely agree, and I'm happy that she's re-signed, is that Jordan Grace doesn't get the credit that she has. For the amount of talent she has, and there was speculation, as we've talked about before, that she may have not be re-signing in May. Obviously, we are recording in May, and just this past week it's been announced that she has re-signed, which is brilliant. She states that there's still a lot to do in Impact, but clearly you know that, and it's a multi-year deal, and you knew that other companies would have been nipping at the heels. So Impact have lost a couple of stars, but if we're going to build on the fantastic women's knockout division, they need to still keep somebody with that diversity and difference with other people, for people to keep an eye on it. And I thought this match was brilliant. I thought I've got no issues with it at all, and it's nice to see them picking up the win. We saw Sally Callahan taking on Trey Miguel in a last man standing match in what was a fantastic feud over the last 7 weeks. We saw partnerships between them both on previous weeks of Impact. It crumbled. Obviously, Trey Miguel was playing the mind games, and ultimately Trey got the win after getting back to his feet and Callahan slipping. So he actually didn't get to his feet in the fight by the 10 count. I can watch these two all day. Trey Miguel is fantastic wrestler. Sami Callihan is just so unique that he can work with anyone, and he can bring out the best in people, no matter who they are and who he is feuding with. I think is really good for that. So yeah, it's looking good for them too. The Good Brothers took on Finn Juice for the tag titles in a rematch in what was a belter of a match, which saw Finn Juice retain the gold. Finn Juice were playing the babyface role, which it suits them, especially against the Good Brothers. And yeah, it was what it is. I'm surprised with Finn Juice keeping the belt, but hopefully that will be something that the company is looking for, as we'll see and talk about when we look at the main event in a minute. Purrazzo defended and defeated the challenge of Tennille Dashwood in a great match. Diona is a fantastic champion for the company. It's fantastic signing for them, and she's been on a roll since she came over from WWE. If Impact isn't already proud, they should be, as I've already briefly said in the tag match of their incredible knockouts division, because there is somebody there for everyone, especially like the likes of Rosemary on there as well. After the match, we saw Kimberly and Purrazzo continue to beat down on Dashwood, which would then see the return of a former Knockouts champion, Taylor Wilde. Yeah. We've not seen her for quite a long time, a number of years. And having seen her wrestle Kimberly and Susan over the last 2 weeks on Impact tapings, she don't look like she's missed a beat at all. She looks fantastic. She's still got that fiery spark in her. You can clearly see she loves the business and loves what she does. And fingers crossed, I think they may be pushing it towards a match against Diona in the future. However, she clearly is playing the coward angle, which has resulted in her potentially seeing a match between my brain's gone. Now Havoc and I think it's Rosemary. So I might be wrong with that, so I apologise. My brain's just gone to mush. Yeah, and then we went on to what is the historic match that we've not seen between two brands. Obviously, we've seen people hold belts like Kurt Angle, holding belts from around different promotions. We saw a winner-take-all main event between Rich Swann and Kenny Omega. Yeah. Now, we were told in the press conference that there would be a winner, so we weren't going to see a DQ. We weren't going to. So one person was going to walk away with a belt. Unfortunately, it was only ever going to go one way. I'm sorry, but as much as I love Rich Swann and everything like that, I think for me, it's the right way to put the belt on Kenny Omega. Now, I appreciate they aren't really promoting the belts on AEW, but it's not. My personal point of view is it's not meant to be that. The Kenny Omega storyline as a character is bigger than AEW and Impact. Yes. Which is the reason why we named our title of today's show The Collector. Yeah. It's bigger than both of them. Yeah. Now you could sit there and say, well, you know, it's an AEW star, he's got the belt. Yeah, that's you're correct, and it's not a good thing to do. However, according to pay-per-view buys, this is the biggest pay-per. It's 4 times more than Hard to Kill, which was Kenny Omega's debut.
It's crazy.
The last time anything like this was that big was when Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe was on it.
That just gave goosebumps. Honestly, that gave me goosebumps hearing those figures. I was like, wow. You know?
10 years since we've had figures like that. Now, Impact isn't as big as it used to be. We know that. So more people are going to be on the product then. But the fact that even if AEW's main goal, only if Impact's main goal is for this brand thing is to get more eyes on the product on a pay-per-view is fine. The weekly shows don't matter. It's the pay-per-view buys, which is what we talked about last time regarding the Revolution for AEW. It's if they can get that buy and they can get people talking, then people will tune in. That's ultimately what it is. Gone are the days where you used to tune in every week. The whole network system is completely changed how it is. It's all about who pays for the show, and it clearly shows that now they could turn around and say, well, it's only Kenny Omega. Yeah, but if he put an extra 50,000 people in that viewing, that's extra 50,000 people. That's brilliant. I'm not going to knock it. Now, so I'm not going to knock it at all. Before we go on to the next bit, I just want to get your opinion on either the main event or any of the matches that I've gone through. So what have you thought?
The whole event, to be honest, I'd only really seen the main event because, again, I'm that fan that gets drawn in by Kenny Omega's involvement, so that is the proof, isn't it, in the pudding. But I've become very aware of a lot of the stars and talent through the past and more recently, we're doing this for you. And some of the talent, I wanted to talk a little about X Division, and then the walking weapon as well. As you mentioned, former, tag team partner Ethan Page. It's really good to see that they're both doing quite well now. And it's true of that social interaction. They're very good with their fans, Page as well. So it's really good to see that X Division get a good, worthy champion. Not that the previous one wasn't. It's again, the strengths of Impact has always been to use its knockouts division and the X division to kind of put it on an equal footing. And as you've rightly pointed out, arguably they're the strongest parts of the show. That's where the homegrown talent really shines, isn't it? So it sounds like a really good card. Really great to see Morrissey or Big Cass back in action. We all know he's had a real struggle. He did look great. He looked fantastic. He can be quite intimidating, to be honest. And again, that highlights the benefit of the X division not necessarily having a weight division or a weight class on it, because it does feel like anyone can turn up at any time, especially at the moment. So sounds like a top to bottom really good show. Again, they're playing to their strengths, but the main event itself, you were spot on. I think there was, to argue your point slightly, I think there was only ever going to be two ways it was going to go. We initially debated, didn't we, a kind of screwy finish that would allow both champions to walk away, but they rightly came out and said there will be a winner. So they kind of had to stick to that. And then what we saw was Omega walk away, and it did feel inevitable. I think no one thought that Swan was ever going to beat Omega and take that title, because it's almost too soon in this storyline for him to have a loss, isn't it? He is the collector at the moment, and to fail at that point when he's not even lost the AEW title, would seem almost counterproductive. And there's more longevity in the heel champion being usurped and chased by the face challenger. If Rich Swann would have beaten Omega, that would have been it for the Impact involvement in that title picture. So you think there's no long term in that really, and it would have made. Kenny's too hot right now, basically. He's on fire. You can't douse that out. It's too soon for that. And yes, you look at it as a blow for Impact, but as you said, the ratings is what counts, and that's what they've got. And if Swan would have won, great. But then Omega might have gone back with his tail between his legs. You might not have seen him again. And then who would be interested in carrying on that story? So, I think absolutely the right decision. As much as it must hurt kind of, Swan and Impact, let's not forget, this is a business. It's not real. Ultimately, that's what counts, isn't it? The pay-per-view figures. And it's incredibly exciting to see 4 times, the previous, to be honest. So it's really good. It should put to bed any doubts that Omega is a big draw. And he's done really well that they both have. Really good work leading up to it as well. There was a real intensity, and they built it up slowly. So really good match. Please on Omega. I am going to talk a little about Omega. But in the end, completely the right decision,
So can I, before I go on to my next bit, can I just ask you, obviously we've obviously got Omega coming over to Impact. Do you think they should have pushed more of Rich Swann over onto AEW?
Yes, yeah, I did like the press conference they had, but equally that could have been held at AEW. You know, you could have had Tony Khan say, "Look, you come over, I'll host you. I'm the big dog. I'm going to lay it all out for you. You come here, we have a press conference. You know, my conference would be better than yours anyway." You know, there was completely an angle there, and you're spot on there, Jolly, where they could have had Rich Swann come over and almost been like showing around and be like, "Look, Rich, you know, this is where the big boys play. This is what you could be. You know, this is what our champion is." So it would have been really nice
Yeah.
to see.
And,
Yeah,
and he even have that smirk of like, if he walks away, the camera still pans on him, which we've seen so many times in promos. And he's like, "This could be mine one day."
yeah, and so that
If it was just that would be brilliant.
Yeah,
Because it throws doubt in, not doubt, but it builds that character. Even if he was gonna lose, it doesn't matter. It just, like we've seen it on many weeks where you know they're gonna get beat at a pay-per-view, but they'll do a win the previous week. Because it's very rare that you see someone win at the week before and then win at the pay-per-view. That's just how the blueprint of wrestling always is. Unless they're building and building and building to something, like obviously as we've talked about with Omega, it's very rare that you see someone just continuously on a steamroller.
Yeah.
So with Rebellion under Pac Twain into bed, we've moved on to Under Siege, which takes place on Saturday, 15th of May, and we've already got a few matches put down and announced. So we're going to see Brian Myers versus Black Taurus. Now, it sounds a bit weird, but basically where this came from was that we had a rematch between Matt Cardona and Brian Myers from Rebellion, with the winner getting into the six-way number one contenders match to basically be the next opponent for Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Now, Brian Myers was unsuccessful, so he went on a tirade backstage, but then was confronted by Rosemary of Decay, who claimed that Myers' ego was the reason why he lost. As tensions rose, fellow Decay member Black Taurus put Myers in his place. And basically that's where this has stemmed from, and they're basically going to build to this match at Under Siege. We then have a announcement from, basically it's a Willie Mack will face Morrissey in a one-on-one action. So basically what had happened, where this has come from, it's stemmed from the Rebellion pay-per-view, where Morrissey took Willie Mack out with a boot and got the pin. We've also seen Morrissey come out on Impact and basically state that he's here to sort out the problem in Impact. He hasn't specified who. He's basically said there's just rubbish. It's just rubbish in the back that he needs to address and sort. And one of these people, unbeknownst why, he's out on Mac. And he said he's going to put him through the same agony that he's suffered over the last several years. Now, take that as a pinch of salt. Take that as a stab at a previous company. You don't know. It's a mixture of all sorts. So Mac has laid down the challenge of saying, "Well, come and face me one-on-one," and Morrissey has accepted it. So we're going to actually see that match take place at Under Siege. We then had we've had 6 qualifying matches to have a number one contender, as I said, to Kenny Omega's title. Now, originally it was addressed by Scott D'Amore that there would be no rematch for Rich Swann, and we're going to have a new number one contender crowned at Under Siege in a 6-way match on the 15th of May. However, on that night, he did state that if Kenny Omega did not show up by the end of Impact, we would actually be having it to crown a new champion. Now, as we saw, Kenny Omega turned up because he's not going to want to lose that belt in the fashion that he did. So we had 6 number one contenderships, where we saw the likes of my brain's just gone now. Sorry. Returning Chris Bay is now in it. Saban, Sammy Callahan, Matt Cardona, Trey Miguel, and Moose. This came from Saban beating Rhino, Trey beating Rio, Moose beating Storm, Chris Bay beating Jake Something in what was a belting match. I have much respect and I love Jake Something. Sammy Callan beat Eddie Edwards, and as I said earlier, Matt Cardona beating Myers. So they're your participants. One of those will walk away the winner and take on Kenny Omega in a future show. Putting it out there, out of them 6, who would you pick, or who would you pick the company, and who would you like?
It's really quite hard. And first of all, I like that they've justified their inclusion. There's nothing worse than they just get like a random 6-pack of challenges and go, there you go. You know, like I like that they've justified how each of them's got into there. I've always quite fancied seeing Sammy Callahan get involved in AEW business somehow. But really, ideally, I would have seen him against Moxley. So possibly Callahan would be a good pick. Did they say why Swan wasn't getting a rematch? Was it just because he's had his shot?
Because it basically was a title versus title match. That's right. It.
That's it. Okay, yeah.
It was just literally, you've had your chance, you lost, and because he's the collector, I don't know. It was just there's no rematch clause, so sorry, mate.
Yeah, and that's probably right, isn't it? You know, like the way it ended, it was no screwy finish. It was a clean finish, wasn't it, for the most part? So yeah, I think that's fair. So possibly Callahan. It's difficult to say really because Omega's got so many opponents potentially coming up in AAA and AEW. You know, it's hard to pick which one would make a better event than the others. Really, I mean, for Impact again, it's difficult to see anyone. And the only thing you could do, I suppose, is the classic kind of heel face swap where you have a transitional champion because they don't want to go down the same route again. So it could be someone who wins it from Omega to set something up with someone from Impact, you know what I mean? So they wouldn't have like I can't think of an example. I mean, I think they did it with like Mick Foley a couple of times back in the day where sometimes you have someone win the belt just to avoid one particular matchup and set up a more traditional face.
Well, we'll do it the other way. The Miz. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, perfect. That's a perfect example. Thank you. Yeah.
Recently with
yeah. So you know you can avoid certain like matchups. So you know if someone, I don't think any one of those guys, and it's no disrespect to him, could win it off Omega. But yeah, I think if he was to lose it, it might be to set up something else. So thinking of further ahead, I suppose it's to think who would win it back to then have an impact feud again. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I couldn't call it really because thinking long term, it's difficult to think of them not losing either, isn't it? You know. Yeah. So
I mean, for me, I think. Because you've got Moose's contract running up in June.
Yes.
I think Moose would be a good pick. If we go away, if I pick someone completely different from you, so we don't go down the same route, I think Moose would be a good pick, seeing as though he's a former TNA champion, where obviously he lost that when they did the title with Rich Swann.
Yeah.
Chris Bay, again, it's all of them are fantastic wrestlers, but who is more of a, pardon to use the pun, an impact for Kenny Omega to potentially go, ooh, bugger. And the only people I can think of, like you said, is Sammy Callahan, Moose, and potentially Matt Cardona.
Moose was involved in the tag match, wasn't he, before? You know, he partnered. So there was that little bit of history there. Matt Cardona would be very interesting. And again, but is he at, I don't know. I still don't see him at a certain level. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the tag he's always got in his entire life. Isn't it?
But the only reason I'm thinking him is because obviously he was on AEW.
Yes.
And depending on how they write this story feud for the next person to win, it could interweave all that like they've done in the past with previous storylines for people where they've taken stuff from years ago and intertwined it. It's, as you said, it's all six of them are fantastic, and it's really, really hard to actually pick who I would see. I don't think anyone else better, and they're going to beat Kenny Omega, but who is the better of the six to be a threat to Omega? If we're gonna do it down that route, who's going to be a threat?
Sorry, I was going to say, now that you've seen Swan lose, it's going to be difficult to build up another credible threat, isn't it? So yeah, that person has to be even more credible, than Rich Swann was, which is tricky, isn't it? So yeah, it's really hard to build someone up and get those pay-per-view buys, kind of knowing that, they're probably going to lose, and that's a real art, isn't it? No one quite knew what was going to happen in the Swan one, even though we thought it might be a little predictable, it wasn't quite sure. But
they've already announced their next shows coming up. So we've got Against All Odds in June, and then we've got Slammiversary in July. Yeah. Now, me personally, I can see them holding off the Kenny Omega match till Slammiversary and make it a big thing. Yeah. And not taking anything away from Against All Odds. But like we talked about on a previous episode about Britt Baker and Shida, which we'll talk about in a bit. Yeah. We actually said that when they're going to happen, it was actually, we were bang on right with that. We were right with where we would expect them to do that. And then finally, we've got a knockout tag team rematch between Grayson Ellering and Fire and Flavor. Obviously, they've got their rematch clause, so they're going to put it onto Under Siege. There's no need to put it on Impact because they've got enough stories and enough talent on there to bulk it out, building up to the next pay-per-view show. So yeah, and then obviously, finally, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. The Bullet, the semi-Bullet Club, if you want to call it, will take on Finn Juice and Eddie Edwards. Yeah, in what promises to be a belter of a match. Now, I'm surprised at this because obviously Eddie Edwards and obviously the other team, the other members of the Impact faced Good Brothers and everyone else like that before. I'm surprised that Eddie Edwards is in this, but then I'm also over other people. But as we've now got certain people in the like Sammy Callahan, if Eddie Edwards had gone in, I'd assumed Sammy Callahan would have been in this. Basically, whoever's not in the six-pack challenge has now filled that slot to fit with Finn Juice, and I think Eddie Edwards is really, really good fit, especially to take on the Good Brothers and Kenny Omega. So, what you're expecting with that one?
Yes, I mean, I'll talk to you in a minute about the whole Good Brothers situation because I've got a few wrinkles with it, I think, that I'm not quite sure about. But yeah, it should be a good match. There's been a lot of six-man matches recently involving Omega and the Good Brothers. So they'll work like clockwork, so that side of things absolutely fine. And yeah, no doubt, like six-man tags are always entertaining. Again, difficult to see, it'd be nice for Impact to get some ground back, wouldn't it? Really. But again, does this mean what if the team of Omega, Gallows and Anderson win? Does that mean Gallows and Anderson get another title shot of Finn Juice? And so this is my question to you, really. Yeah. I put on social media that I would have liked to have seen the Good Brothers win the titles back, just to then have all the gold with the Bullet Club Elite. So you've got Young Bucks, and I thought surely they're going to do that. So now you've got a situation where Impact is almost lost its tag belts and its heavyweight title, haven't you? So I don't know, I don't know how you feel about it. Again, it's good for pay-per-view buys, but how do you feel about two belts now being, almost represented by two different companies? And and Anderson probably have that back at some point, although you could argue they're not on Impact as much either. So I don't know.
For me, they've done this. They've done this before, where they've taken the focus off the main titles, the mid title and the tag titles, but pushed the X division.
which is what they've done.
They did that in TNA when Impact was TNA, and obviously they pushed it a lot, and it worked. The only issue I've got is that now I've got no problem belts not being on shows. I really don't, because it also builds. It's that balance of, do people switch off because they're not seeing the belt, or do people tune in like they did in the olden days, where the only belts you only ever saw a belt title defense was on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm happy with it, as long as it's done right. I agree with the Good Brothers, as in being tag champs, but then again, it's that whole thing of other than the Good Brothers, who else on Impact is viable for them belts? Now, unless they're going to bring somebody else in, I can't see anyone else other than, or unless they're going to build to like Sabin and Storm winning it, or even Shearer and Rowett winning it. I can't see a viable threat other than some shenanigans for the Good Brothers to take the belts off, and then be the transitional chance to give it to somebody else on Impact.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Considering how much tag team talent AEW has, they've almost not gone the other way. Do you know what I mean? You think, when Private Party came in to challenge, it's almost a shame you could have kept AEW tag titles challenges coming in, but now it doesn't really work because Good Brothers arguably seem like they're more on AEWs now. So it's an interesting one. So it sounds like they have a bit of lack of tag team challengers in Impact, really. Or credible ones at least. So the complete opposite of AEW.
Hopefully it'll sort itself out, and hopefully for me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying what I'm watching. I really am. It's been a very, very long time since I watched Impact, and I'll put that out there live on screen. The last I never watched it through the Jeff Jarrett buying the company. I lost interest in it with the the previous one. I can't even remember. That's how bad it is. That's how bad I am for not doing the research. So I do apologise, because it's not a question, or it's not a thing that I was actually going to talk about without preparation, because I like me and you are together, we are very passionate about the sport, regardless of what people think about certain things, and regardless of what people think about storylines and who's getting pushed what and who's getting fired and who's getting hired. We like the product, we like the wrestling. And I think what Impact have been doing, as they've constant, regardless of the name changes, regardless of who's been taken, and I'm high, that's it. Thank you. Brain's just gone back to gear. So, regardless of who's been taken over, the quality of wrestling in Impact has been it's been fantastic. It's just, unfortunately, the politics behind the product and the name changes and that has unfortunately put a dampener on it. But they've not stopped with the quality of work that people have done, and you can see that the people that work there, the people that they've brought in, and unfortunately some people that have left, you can see that through the quality of work that they've been doing, it's shone on screen.
Definitely.
And I'll big up Impact, and especially over the last 2 years, what they've been doing is fantastic. And I'm going to finish on just one thing, which I'm going to pass over to you. So as we're filming this, we've previously, on the recent episode of Impact, seen the debut of another New Japan Pro wrestler, who I've been luckily enough to see wrestle in the UK, and at that point he wrestled Pac.
Yes,
a brilliant match, and that's El Phantasmo. He made his Impact debut, and obviously he won, which would have been the right thing to do. It would have been an awful debut if he hadn't. What are your thoughts on El Fantasma?
Oh, so excited. We tweeted out on our social media a few weeks back now, and it got quite a good response that I would have loved to have seen El Fantasma ELP come in to challenge Darby Allin in, these kind of open challenges they're doing for the TNT title.
Yeah.
I just think he could have had so many good promos with him. So to see him come over either way, I was absolutely delighted and really shocked, actually, because I just didn't see that happening. He is almost the uncrowned kind of prince of Bullet Club, I think, and he's very popular in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's got a very old school heel style thing where he talks like this and makes his point quite slowly, and I like that because it's almost a parody of it. And he's got a fascinating story, and I recommend you go check out his backstory. A very talented man, multi-talent, but I'm gushing a little here. Yes, very excited to see him over here. I only hope that it continues. As I said, he did win in his debut. And as we were saying off air, I'd like to see him have some real involvement, whether it's a title chase, or be involved with something bigger. That, you've now had Kenta appear in AEW, you've now had El Fantasma in Impact. You've got two proper Bullet Club members now represented. So eventually I would love to see a full-on Bullet Club crossover, as we all would. I just don't know. Omega's working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling ended quite bitterly and quite sourly when he left, along with the Young Bucks and Cody, etc. A couple of years back. So yeah, where it's going to lead to, I don't know. But either way, the Forbidden Door is almost been completely blown off its hinges, and ELP and other talent from New Japan is welcome. We've seen it with Finjuice, we've seen it with Kenta, and now with El Fantasma. So yeah, great stuff. Really exciting to see. I was really pleased with that. And it gave him the showcase over here that he deserves, really. He's really talented, and I recommend you go check out not only the match that Jolly recommended, some of his Wrestle Kingdom matches, the best. He's a real kind of tall but agile cruiserweight, like I said, Super Juniors, X Division, perfect. So maybe fit him in that X Division. But yeah, I've rambled.
I remember after the show, they were all selling the merch and that, and ELP was there just hanging out, and I walked up to him and I just literally leaned over and went, because this was when the rumours were that he was going to New Japan, but nothing had been said.
Yeah.
It was just that he was a free agent, and so I went over to him and I just leaned next to him like that and just went, "So are you going to New Japan?" And he went, "I can't say out." And I went, "I won't tell anyone." And he went, "Honestly, I can't say out because I'll get told off." And I went, "All right then, I'll leave it there." And he went, "See you soon." And I went, "Bye." That was it. That was the interaction. So, I can't say out. Yeah. But I can't say out. And I'm like, "So you are going then?" And he was like, "I can't say." "So you're not going?" "I can't say out." Yeah. If you give me a piece of paper and I write it down, I'll tell you, that type of thing. And I just thought that would mean I've got much love for him. And as I said, if you're able to find them, the match online, if not, keep an eye on our social media. And if I'm able to find it, or at least be able to say where it is, then go check it. But so the Forbidden Door has opened over from Impact to AEW, and this is where I take a sit back and let my co-host, the Big Chocky T, take full centre stage. So there you go, bud.
Thank you. Yeah, take it easy, man. That was a recap. I enjoyed that. Where to start, really? The Forbidden Door, my goodness, I thought it couldn't be opened any further, but it's practically swinging off now, like I said, its hinges, because we are literally seeing a deluge of talent now come in. Slowly, I might add, but I think that's very smart. No one's talking full invasion angle yet. It's just been teased. What they've never really fully explained, I suppose, is why these talents are here. No one's really spoken for New Japan, have they? I understand Kenny's involvement. He wanted to be the collector. He wanted to get his hands on that belt. Don Callis was the bridge there, but we've not really seen, apart from the obvious Bullet Club connection, we've not really seen a real explanation. So maybe it'll build to something. something. But it's quite interesting how New Japan haven't got like a Scott D'Amore or a Tony Khan to represent their interest in why they're doing this. So I'm hopeful for that. But in the meantime, yeah, we've seen a lot of talent come through, and long may it continue. So just to carry on, you've covered Omega and Swan really well. So I won't go on too much about that, except to say that it had a real big fight feel. You had the two referees, one representing Impact and one representing AEW. You had Tony Khan in the audience, along with Jerry Lynn, who always seems to accompany him. So it had that real atmosphere. And we talked previously about the fantastic job on commentary that Matt Stryker and D'Lo Brown do. Yeah. But they also brought in, Mamma Mia, Mario Ranello. And my goodness, he was missed. He has been missed. So it was really good to see him on there. Some people have pointed out that it wasn't like the ultimate match, but it was a good match. It was a solid match. And yes, some people may have been disappointed by the somewhat predictable winner. But as we've already said, yes, it was always going to be that way, really. And they've achieved that goal. So good on Omega. And that's pretty much all we're going to say about, Impact. But yeah, I think it's turned Omega now. We all wanted the old Kenny Omega back, and he has returned as the cleaner, but he's also elevated himself to the collector now. So it's almost a new persona. Previously, as the cleaner, it was quite a lot of dark clothing, shades, black gloves. It was always based on Snake Plissken from the film Escape from New York, a little bit of Albert Wesker, a little bit of Anime Villain. So what he's done now is, he's brought in like the crocodile shoes and the extravagant jackets and the shirts. So he's actually evolved into something more than the cleaner now. He is this brash champion who is being referred to as a god, which is a bold statement, isn't it, to say you're a wrestling god. And I encourage you, if you haven't heard it, to listen to Don Callis' intros, at these pay-per-views on an Impact, because the way he introduces Omega, it is brilliant. Everyone else is compared to insects, former champions, etc., compared to the wrestling god. So he's got a lot to live up to, and he's doing an awful lot of work at the moment. When you think about potentially defending the 3/4 belts now, he's recently been challenged in AAA or Triple R by Andreas, who we haven't seen in a long time, since he left WWE. And it was a really good promo and a bit of an excitement to see that. And we're possibly going to see some other cross championship matches come off of that. So the door has not only been open, but now it's almost swung another way into the AAA world now, which is brilliant. So yeah, Kenny's he's always been a good promo in my mind, but what he's generally getting now is good heat. And you only have to look at the interaction he had with Orange Cassidy and Tony Schiavone at Blood and Guts to see how he can draw heat. His put downs of Orange Cassidy, treating him like an absolute joke. It was brilliant. And there is an element of realism in every good promo. And of course, that's how Orange Cassidy seems to a lot of people still. So I'll get on to that and potentially their matchup that we might see at Double or Nothing. But for now, I think, good on Omega for carrying a massive burden on his shoulder. But he's not doing it alone, which is my next point. We have the reformed kind of elite Bullet Club, which I think they're probably calling themselves, and the old new Young Bucks, as I like to call them. So this was really welcomed by me personally, to see the return of the Bucks from New Japan. There's been a lot of criticism at Matt and Nick for the flip-flopping they had, this face heel dynamic, and I do agree with that. And I was actually enjoying it maybe a little more when they were conflicted, and it looked like they might have a real issue with Kenny, and it looked like they might lead up to something, but we've seen that. We've seen the Bucks versus Omega when he was with Hangman, and we've even seen the Bucks versus Omega and Kota Ishiba before. So, we've had that match. I think that emotional matchup that's been done. So ultimately the Bucks turned and have now joined along with Gallows and Anderson, arguably Don Callis, into the Bullet Club Elite, and they've gone back to their really heelish, really prick-like ways. They've got their Nikes and their Dior, like Jordans, that they bust out. Matt's gone back to really playing it quite cute a lot of the time on camera, and they're basically doing the Bullet Club from 2018, 2019. But I've got absolutely no problem with that.
I liked the bit on the turnbuckle where he was just sat there and he's like, shorts.
Yeah.
It's just like, as you said, it's I agree with you. There's been a lot of criticism regarding the whole Bullet Club, especially the Young Bucks, because they're just playing the same characters, but because they're being a heel, no one likes it. But because they were classed as face before doing the exact same thing, everyone liked it. But personally, I'm fine with it. I've always liked Young Bucks from the Ring of Honor days when they did the tour through New Japan to Ring of Honor and around the country and around the world. Basically, their farewell tour before they announced the AEW brand. And I actually really enjoy it. I think them two, as the dicks that they are, plays far better than the conflicting baby faces that they are. There's certain people that can pull off face and certain people that can pull off heel. Omega is fantastic as a heel. Taz is fantastic as a heel. Young Bucks are fantastic as heels. So yeah, I agree. I've got no problem with them at all playing what they are doing. I don't know whether I'd wanted them to have joined up with the Good Brothers and Omega as soon as they did, but I've got no issues with them joining up that they had. I thought it might have built to something a little bit longer down the line, but yeah, I've got no issues with them being part of that, going back to how they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes sense, that it happened, because we talked about what Omega has on it, and for him to keep these belts, he needs all the backup he can get, doesn't he? He needs to help with that load. He's got a lot of enemies at the moment, and the Young Bucks, they delight in almost turning their own criticisms against them. So yes, they played face for a long while, but of course they're enjoying themselves a lot more as heels. And in real life, they're good guys. They're both Christian boys. You can tell that they, although they're very nice, they obviously enjoy being a heel more. And who wouldn't? Like Omega's having the time of his life. Gallus and Anderson are just being themselves pretty much. But it must be really nice for those boys to all be back together again, and it warms my old heart, to see that. So I'm really pleased with that. And my question was going to be, the Young Bucks have not defended their titles too much, so it looks like we're going to go with SCU. With the caveat being that Christopher Daniels has already said that the next time they lose as a pair, him and Kazarian, CD will split from the group, and we'll see the official end of SCU with Scorpio Sky already having left seemingly. So, who do you see as the next, challengers for the Bucks? Moxley and Kingston are getting very involved in it, but I'll get onto that. I don't want to see it anymore. What about yourself?
I think they'll keep the belts. SCU will split. They may not necessarily be a tag team, but they're there to help each other out, but they may not actually be officially a tag team. It's quite interesting because there's quite a lot of good ones. I've openly said to you and on social media that I'm huge fans of Butcher and the Blade. However, Butcher has just gone under surgery. And hoping for a speedy recovery. Obviously, we mentioned that and spoke to him online, and he said thank you very much. He'll be back soon. That's a team that I'd love to see down the line. Now, whether or not they'll do a heel versus heel team, I don't know. If we're looking at faces, you've got Jurassic Express. Could we see another chance of? I know they play the heel, but could we see? Do we want to see Private Party in there again? Could we see, just as a filler? Could we see Dark Order? Could we see even a partnership, depending on how next week's episode of Dynamite goes? Could we see a partnership of Darby Allin and Lance Hoyt?
Yeah.
Because obviously we've seen Lance Hoyt getting and help Sting and Darby Allin over the past several weeks. Could we see just fillers like Varsity Blondes?
Claimed. It's another shout.
Yeah, as I said, there's plenty of there, but like as we talked about on the Impact side of it, is it just filler until the team that they are going to face is going to be available? I'm not saying, unfortunately, I'm not saying that there's, in a circle, we could say in a circle, any member of them, you could have, Jericho and Hager, you could have Jericho and Guevara, you could have Ortiz and Santana on there. So out of all that, there is quite a big number of teams that would be very, very good. But as we said before about the taking the belt off Omega or who's the strongest opponent, I'm not sure yet, and whether or not they will push that just yet. They might sit that on the back burner a little bit just to build. In my eyes, the way that they've been doing it is that Young Bucks are a very strong team. And Pinnacle have got their own thing, so we're not going to see an FTR again for the titles just yet. But for me, I would say sit Young Bucks back, let them be the overview like how Omega's doing, and let everyone else build the division and fight, and whoever comes out on top will be presented as a strong opponent instead of just someone just to take the win over.
Yeah, I think the way at the moment is it possibly looks like Moxley and Kingston, because I was going to talk about how even though they're still getting involved with Omega, that storyline for me is done now. Him and Omega should leave it for a while. And I mean Moxley, and you've got a really good natural tag team with Kingston and Moxley. So let them have a crack. They've had their differences with the Young Bucks, they've had their feud, and I think because you have a pay-per-view every so many months, you're going to have to come up with someone credible. So for me, transition Moxley and Kingston, a bit like they did with the Good Brothers, transition them away from Omega and more to focus on the Young Bucks. In the meanwhile, let the Pinnacle, like I said, start doing their thing, start winning the titles. And to be honest, the overall picture I see is when Omega maybe eventually gets dethroned and we see the destruction of the Elite Bullet Club, the Pinnacle might become focus of the show, and which you'd have MJF go after the title. You'd have TNT with Sean Spears, and FTR winning back the title. So I think maybe the Pinnacle have to rise to the top at some point after their recent Blood and Guts victory. They have to be elevated now. So it'd be really interesting to see. They've got almost a unique challenge that there's so many credible opponents sometimes. But like you said, at the moment, we all kind of know that the Elite is in like a holding pattern, waiting for the right challenges, which leads me conveniently on to my next point, which is Hangman Page shockingly losing to Brian Cage. And I don't know if you saw this. Yeah, it was a good match, but everyone obviously is anticipating Hangman to be the one to dethrone Omega, and I'm not saying that won't still happen, but I thought it was really refreshing to currently derail a bit of momentum and have Team Taz get a big win back. It was keeping everyone level. So I'm not going to say that it's been swept under the carpet, but I don't think they made a big enough deal about Brian Cage winning that, because suddenly it's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works, isn't it? But perhaps it's given Hangman a hurdle to overcome and keep him busy, because Omega's got a lot of belts to defend. He's got to keep that busy, and Hangman but needs to be there in the background. So he needs feuds, doesn't he, before they eventually meet? So I don't know what you thought about Hangman losing, but he couldn't have just kept winning, I suppose, but I'm not sure of Brian Cage. It was unusual to see a loss on Dynamite to potentially your long-term number one contender in Adam Page.
For me, I thought it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it. To keep them both strong, I would have expected them to be like a DQ loss or something like that. But I thought the way that they did it, which was very good, which was catching him before the bell, helped build that momentum of, is he going to be... You've got Brian Cage, who's a beast, and for him to attack him before the bell means that Page is on the back foot, and you've caught him off guard, and obviously he got pinned at the end cleanly, but it shows that the story there, it shows more than just going in, wrestling, and coming out. The only way that Cage could beat him was to attack him from behind. If it had been in the ring, would we have seen the same outcome? Would it have been as would the outcome would have been as shocking, or would the outcome would have diluted Page's run as much as it did? I think it was the right. I think it was the right thing to do. And like you were saying with the whole thing of, Page's ideally Page would be the one.
Yeah.
Take Omega out eventually. But with Omega doing other things and being away, like we talked about, Finjuice not always going to be on Impact because they're signed with New Japan. Omega's got his own stuff to do because he's obviously got belts everywhere else and he's got to make commitments. You can have the Young Bucks take front reign while they do their own thing. But I thought it was a good thing to do.
Yeah.
With Cage. Yeah, I agree with why isn't Taz now going to Tony Khan or getting on commentary during the matches, during the next week's match, like through blood and guts and that, saying, we've beaten your number one contender.
Yeah.
So why has Brian Cage not been acknowledged as, this should have shot him straight up to be number one, or if not number two. Yeah. Now, they could do that because obviously you've got Pac and Orange Cassidy as number one and two already. So they may be waiting until that finishes, as in that match is over and done with, before putting that in. Because obviously, if he turns around and says, "Well, Cage has beaten Page," then would that skew with your number one and two contenders?
Yes.
So now that's done, he can now come back and say, like he did with Christian a couple of weeks later, look, we've waited ages. This is me speaking now. He could wait till after this upcoming week's Dynamite and say, right, you've got your number one and two contender. Cage has beaten the Hangman, so shouldn't he be next in line to be a contender for Omega, or should he be shot straight to the top to take on your now number one contender? Potentially, I don't know, but I thought it was good. It was nice to see Team Taz get a win.
Yes, big win. Yeah, big win.
Especially over the last few weeks, it was nice to see Brian Cage get that win. But ultimately, I liked the way that they did it, and I thought it kept him strong, kept him as a beast, and it didn't take anything away from Hangman Page, knowing that he'd been beaten cleanly because he had an attack from behind. Whereas if it had been pinned there and then without being attacked, I think his stock would have been a lot lower than people would have given credit for. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It is good to see Team Taz have a win. They've been on a few pay-per-view loss streak, really. You've had a bit of dissension in the ranks as well. We've seen Cage show his respect to Sting. You've seen Will Hobbs then respect Christian Cage after his loss to him. So it looked, for all intents and purposes, they might try to split. But Team Taz are literally one of my favourite parts of Dynamite. So I don't want to see them split. I want to see, Ricky Starks lost to Hangman Page. I want to see Starks get elevated. I want to see Cage. And I think, on a more general point, doesn't that say a lot about AEW, that you feel like there's multiple people that you want to see elevated and you feel like should be in the spotlight, like Cage and like Stark? They've got such a lot of talent. They've done such a good job of balancing out some of these wins and losses sometimes that you never feel like someone isn't that close to the title scene, and I really like that. So, yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, no, I was just going to, before you jump onto your next point, I was just going to finish that. If you're only tuning into Dynamite, Team Taz looks awful.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
But you've got to remember, and this is why on social media we push, I mean, anyone should push anyway, but we push the shows from Dark Elevation and AEW Dark. All that Team Taz is on there as well, and they're picking up the wins on there. So if you just purely look at Dynamite, you look and go, why are these a viable threat there? They've won one match in 9, but don't forget that they've been on other shows that you may not necessarily tune into, and that's where they've been getting the wins, which is obviously where, as we talk about later, Britt Baker's been getting stuff.
Yeah.
But so don't think Team Taz are not a threat. It's just that they've not been, unfortunately, given the wins that they should be on cable TV. And I think that's where they need to start slightly changing it, because otherwise, why would you be invested in a team?
Yeah.
Why would Cage be at number 1 in the rankings when everyone else is losing? So give it time, and hopefully it will bleed off onto weekly shows. But if you want to see how good the Team Taz is, and you haven't watched any of it yet, just go watch it free on YouTube on their weekly dark shows and weekly dark elevations, because they are fantastic, especially with the indie unsigned wrestlers on there, as well as the AEW signed stars. So yeah, okay, yeah, go on then. I'll let you carry on. Sorry about that.
No, good show. It's an excellent point. You know, someone like Ricky Starks, his win streak going up against Hangman, they both had quite a good undefeated record for 2021. And a lot of those victories would have come on Dark as well, or Elevation, you know. So you're absolutely right. Like, they get some great wins on there, and they're worth checking out, as are the shows in general, especially Elevation, I find. So I wanted to move on conveniently. Sorry, let me just check my notes. To someone you just mentioned, DMD, I'm going to write on the screen, heel queen, Dr. Britt Baker. We talked, almost months ago, even on, I think, the Turnbuckle Arms, we mentioned how Britt was the inevitable, challenger to Hikaru Shida. And we mentioned, at the time, a lack of decent challengers. Now, they've done some good work. You had Ty Conti, challenge Shida recently. You had the women's tournament. They've kept them away from each other for long enough that now's the time. We've had Britt and Thunder Rosa, we've had that feud now, and that was fantastic, So what they've got now is a brilliant situation, even coming off that loss, I might add, to Rosa, where you've got Britt as the number 1 contender versus Shida, the fighting champion, So this is now officially set for Double or Nothing, which will be at the end of this month. It's one of only 2 matches set so far, so it's definitely, you tend to find that the biggest matches are the ones they set first, the ones that have got the most stockings. These are the ones that are pre-planned the most. So yes, I look forward to Dr. Baker's inevitable dethroning of Shida, and I would be shocked if that didn't happen. Now, I don't know about you, Joy, but yeah, it seems obvious, doesn't it, that she will be the heel champion, and it will move on from there. Do you see Shida winning this one at all?
Well, we've talked on a previous episode, on our first episode last month. As you said, we were as part of the Turnbuckle Arms podcast. We talked about AEW and Impact itself, and we discussed Britt Baker in length. And I agree. I think Tony Khan has openly said that he's going to do a sellout of 5,500 at the show. And we have said numerous times on social media and on here that if you're going to do it, you do it right and hold it off for Britt Baker to win in front of a crowd. Now, whether it's in front of 5,000, whether it's in front of 200 or 20,000, it doesn't matter. It's that live crowd that you're going to get. And I think what they've done, and you rightly, and we've said before, and you bang on regarding keeping her away with the feud with Rossa has been brilliant, because it's hard to be on a weekly show where you can keep them 2 people away, and the fact that Rossa as NWA as well has helped elevate the in anticipation for her to get to that title spot, and the fact that she's turned around and said, "Well, I'm going to wrestle on Dark, I'm going to wrestle on Elevation, because the more wins I get, the more higher I'll get." And then obviously Shida beat Ty Conti in a fantastic match, and straight away Britt Baker walked out and just went, "The board,
yeah,
number 1, and next." And we openly said it's going to be Double or Nothing.
Yeah, we did.
We said, I mean, a lot of people have agreed with us, and a lot of people have said it themselves that they won't do it on a Blood and Guts, they won't do it on a weekly show. They'll wait until their next big one, which is Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it's right. We've said before, and I agree with it, and I still agree with you, that I think it'd be a bad decision not to give the belt to Britt Baker now, especially at Double or Nothing. Touch wood, nothing happens to Britt Baker now.
Yeah.
Keep her away from any type of match. Keep her away from. Just put her in bubble wrap and stick her in storage for 3 weeks. Because we've seen it before. Yes. We've watched it before where someone's been building up to a match and something's happened and it's derailed. And we've talked about it we've seen it from the arrival of AEW all the way through to her injury, and everyone was just disappointed with that because they knew that was her run. I've openly said on here that I've never been a fan of her, but ever since seeing her build her momentum up, I absolutely love Britt Baker, the character, the person, no matter how you want to look at it. And I think, this is the time. She just had it for long enough. Not saying that she isn't a fighting champion, not saying she isn't a deserving champion, but we need a bit of fresh air now to that women's division because Britt Baker can fight faces and heels. She has that ability to be a person that you love to hate, to build and build and build. Who's going to take that? Again, like we talked about Omega, who's going to be the one that takes it off them? Who's going to be the one to build up? And then for her to just smack them away and go, nope, next. It doesn't matter who you're a face, whether you're a face or a heel, whether you're in an NWA, whether you're on Impact, or whether you're unsigned, she will be able to get the best out of you, and you will be able to wrestle a fantastic match with somebody who is so talented in the ring that it's incredible that she hasn't been in certain places she's not only she's been wrestling for quite a number of years, but the fact that she's been elevated in a way and people are she's still making herself relevant without people turning off is fantastic. So I think the days are numbered for Shida and the days counting down for a new champion. Absolutely.
I agree with that. I love a heel champion that would do whatever it takes, and will repeatedly defend the belt, but it'll just win and it'll just slip away, and just keep the title. She's got Reba Rebel there to help her with that. When famously CM Punk had his very long plus 400-day reign, he was great at that, and he would always squirm out of it, even if it seemed inevitable he would lose. And I want to see the same from Shida. Flair did the same for a long time. I love a heel champion who, just escapes from the jaws of victory. What I don't want to see, though, I want to see a good, really tough battle with her and Shida. I don't mind if she cheats to win. That's the heelish nature, isn't it? But what I want to see after that is her somehow escaping it for even over a year. And why not do it a Double or Nothing? We've often debated what is AEW's WrestleMania. Is it All Out, or arguably is it the anniversary show where it all began? You could say that was Double or Nothing. So perhaps Double or Nothing is the big one. So 2 final points. I'm probably going to cover Blood and Guts more in the next month's recap, because it's more, it's more of this month, and the dust hasn't quite settled on that yet. There's a lot of debate online. I do want to get into it about what. Well,
I'll tell you what. Live as we're doing this now, we might do a brief thing of Impact, and we'll do a bit. Obviously, we can talk about a bit more of the aftermath, not just the show. We can do a full recap of everything that's going on. So we might do we'll probably do a Blood and Guts post-show review, and basically critics review what people have got said online and everything like that. So we might do a bigger Blood and Guts review. I know people have done it over the past few weeks, but we'll do, if you want, we'll do a bit more in depth of everything.
There's a lot to cover in that, you see, and I feel like we don't necessarily have the time to cover that today, so I wanted to give it its time. You know, I won't talk too much about it for now. We'll save that for the show. But yeah, we all what people think. But what my point I wanted to make was, not only was it a fantastic free, arguably pay-per-view level match or matches that they put on, but having a crowd there was brilliant, and you noticed that crowd so much. AEW have obviously had crowds, but this was the biggest crowd they've had to date, and it just felt special, which led on to the encounter between Omega and Orange Cassidy, and just having that crowd react to not only that, but the segment with Miro as well, which I particularly admired. It was really great to have that crowd there. So you would hope at Double or Nothing, you get that 5,000 crowd, that they can have. It was going to be at the MGM Grand originally in Las Vegas, a place I've been fortunate enough to go, and that's a fairly big place, so you're unlikely to get that sold out. Back at Jacksonville, sure thing. Sell it out. Get the 5,000 fans in there. They have got so good and so used to running shows there now in a COVID-safe environment. I don't see why not. And what a delight that would be to open it up, hear the familiar tones of Siobhan and Ross and Excalibur, and you see the crowd there that pans around. It'll be brilliant. So it's looking like... Sorry. Go on,
no. So we know it can work because we've had WrestleMania. We've had the previous couple of weeks ago, we had UFC. So we know it can work. It's just a matter of they'll obviously have to, at the moment they're having to contain it where they are. They're making use, as you've openly said and we've said many a times, AEW are good at making a bad situation work and making use of what they've got, and they've got the ability to have the back end of the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium, which I think is fantastic. So the fact that they're able to just call that home for the time being instead of moving around, or they can, all right, the first couple of weeks might have been a bit shaky, but they've got to the point where it's sweet. They know how to work it because it's their own product, it's their own show. So I can't wait to see the camera pan to a crowd and them all cheering for what will be, in essence, as you said, the first show since. Before it's going to be 14 months in front of
the Revolution 2020, which is crazy.
November, wasn't it?
It's going to be special, I hope, and I like Double or Nothing, they're always good shows. I was just final point was going to mention about who will be in the main event, and it's looking, unless they go with a Shida Baker main event, which would be interesting, it's looking like it's going to be Omega versus Orange Cassidy. Now, it's not to say it definitely will be. Pac and Cassidy are going to have that match to see who will be the number one contender. We've already seen Pac previously and Omega have some amazing matches, don't get me wrong, but I think most people are intrigued by seeing the difference in styles between the King of Sloth style, OC, Orange Cassidy, and Kenny Omega. Omega is very hard-hitting impact strikes. Cassidy, as we've seen, is very unique style. So for me personally, I'd like to see that. The interactions between them would be brilliant. I can see Omega getting infuriated with Cassidy, and his lack of just engagement on anything, slapping him. Why aren't you, saying anything? I can see him losing his shit with that. So I would like to see Orange Cassidy infuriate him as he did Pac when they had their fantastic match. I want to say back at All Out some time ago. But that was a real breakout night for Orange Cassidy, and he's done wonders since. He's had great battles with Jericho. He can prove he can be quite a draw. Is he going to win? No, absolutely not. But will it be entertaining? Yes. And if you can't make a credible challenger, at least make an entertaining match. And I think this is what we'll see here. So, really looking forward to that. It's obviously not the kind of main event match that you really want from Double or Nothing, against someone like a Page, or like a Brian Cage, or someone that you really feel is going to give it to Omega, but it will be entertaining. So I look forward to Double or Nothing. I guess it's going to be Young Bucks SCU. If that doesn't happen before, which it might do, I think, Shida, Baker, and then Darby, I think he's fighting Miro next week. And
he is.
Yeah, I respect that, but I've said to you last show, I like my titles to be defended on pay-per-views, really, and build it up a bit. And these open challenges are very noble and they're great matches. And it is a TV title, arguably, but I would like to see Miro Darby at Double or Nothing, especially as I'm utterly convinced Miro's going to win. And I guess that's my final question to you. Do you see Darby Allin losing to Miro, who, by all rights, probably should hold a title?
I mean, don't get. I like what Miro's been doing. Obviously, we send our thoughts to Kip Sabian, who's out injured, which is why he got hurt on the previous week. And what we saw at Blood and Guts, where he got thrown down the stairs. Darby Allin, sorry. I could see Miro taking that belt. Unless something happens to keep that belt on Darby, as in unless somebody interferes in that match, I can't see Miro losing. Because one, if Darby is hurt, then it would be a good way to go out, because you're going out to somebody like Miro, who is a monster at the moment, and he's something that he's now able to go do. If he'd have come in straight away, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, if he'd have come in straight away, he'd have been a lot better." But if he'd have come in straight away, like the whole thing we talked about before with Darby Allin and Lance Hoyt, Darby Allin and Brian Cage, they'd have burnt him out too quick.
Yes, I agree.
It'd have just been another person.
Another
Whereas now he's come in and he's now shown his true colours by saying, "Look, I am here to win titles. Doesn't matter who you are, I am coming for you," which means a credible threat potentially for Omega down the line. Something that we talked about that we haven't. Something that I did think about while we were talking about tag team. You've got the Lucha Brothers.
Yes.
Sorry, I completely forgot about them. So please don't come and batter me head in on social media. I do apologise. But then you've got, and as like you said with Moxley and Kingston with them as well. I think for me, it's hard. I mean, like on your previous one with Orange Cassidy and as the winner, Pac is someone that I'd love to see get a shot. But again, I want to see it further down the line. I don't want to see it now. You've got so many people that are ready to pounce on Omega. And you've got so many people that are ready to pounce on Darby Allin that you don't want them all to just happen straight away. Because then you burnt them all out. You don't want it on free telly. Like we were talking about with others, you want the fillers as much as they're all fantastic wrestlers. There's certain people that you're never going to see hold a belt.
Yeah, that's true.
Certain people are fantastic at making a match and building out a storyline and building out the wins for somebody else, for then someone else to take the belt away from them. Miro is an example. He's fantastic in the ring. He's fantastic on the mic. He's now found his feet, being who he is. And as we talked about on the last month's on our bumper episode, he's somebody that is a viable threat that would take the belt off of Darby Allin. It's nothing. You don't take anything away from Darby Allin, but you don't want to push him too much to Kenny Omega, because you've got so many people sat there waiting to bite at Kenny Omega that is just going to be another fish in the sea. And I think to put the belt on him would be brilliant, because not only is it a viable threat, you've got so many fresh opponents now to go against Miro. You can build him and build him and build him like they did with Brody Lee, and like they've done with Darby Allin. And it's a belt that basically takes precedence over the AEW World Championship, because it's the TNT Championship. It doesn't play second. It doesn't need to play second fiddle, because it doesn't. Kenny Omega, as we've said at the beginning of the show with the Impact side, Kenny Omega is bigger than AEW and Impact. He can just come and go as he wants, and he doesn't need to be there for people to tune in. I mean, hats off to him for hitting over a million, being number one cable on cable over the past few weeks. It's been really, really good to see that they've been consistent enough to have more than just a one-off week where they've hit a million people, and the fact that they've hit number one on cable is just a testament to show just how invested AEW are in the product and how TNT are invested in the product. Because if they weren't, they won't be putting them in prime time slots. So they clearly are. They clearly can see that there's a future for the business. And going back to the point, Darby Allin losing the belt is not a bad thing. Go get himself sorted, and even if he comes back and then challenges, if Miro's got the belt at the time, we can have that angle of saying, I was not 100%. That is why you beat me. I've beaten bigger and harder people than you. I'm not 100%. And then you've got Ethan Page turning around and saying, hey, hang on a minute. I took him out. I want a chance at this belt. And then you've got Ethan Page versus Miro with Scorpio Sky, who has also had a chance at the TNT title. So you've got so many branches of storyline that is going to work really well by having a fresh face of Miro. If Darby Allin hadn't have been 100%, then maybe he would have won the belt. But to put so much stock in Miro right now, the best thing to do would be to give him a belt. If not the main title, give him that belt and make him your face of the product, which is obviously what TNT is. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Darby. Darby has been a fantastic champion. The matches he's had with Jungle Boy, the matches he's had with Christian Cage, the matches that he's had with the Dark Order, numerous Dark Order members, have all elevated not just him, but others to a level where they've gone, wow, these are fantastic. But then again, wow, they don't need the belt.
Very true.
Doesn't need the belt, but it needs to go on to somebody else to, as we've talked about before on with other titles, just to put a bit of fresh face on it for fresh matches, because you can only have so many people. Darby Allin can't beat everyone.
No, he can't.
But Miro can, and he can win it in a heelish way. As we've said about Baker, it's okay to win the belt and be heelish, because it's easier to keep the belt as a heel. It's harder to keep the belt as a face, because you've got to follow a certain criteria and a certain blueprint. So
exactly.
I can't wait. I can't wait for this week and the matches that are coming up at Double or Nothing. I'd be quite intrigued to see who, if he's right and Miro wins, whether Ethan Page gets that shot at Double or Nothing because of him saying, well, I helped you win that belt by making him not 100%. So it'd be good. Unfortunately, I think I'll go with Miro, but I'm not taking it. That's not taking anything with Darby away from Darby Allin. I just think he's just not 100% at the moment.
I agree with that. And you have the obvious, most likely outcome. Miro wins with the help of Page and Sky, leading into an Ethan Page versus Miro feud. Based on exactly that. So I think by the end of this month, 50% of their champions will be new champions. I think So it'll be really interesting to see where that goes, really, and to see what's up next. We mentioned before how they do a really good job of keeping the belts on them for the right amount of time, but I think now is the time to change the women's and the TNT, but keep the heavyweight and keep the tags, and that way you do intrigue 50% of that audience to say, oh look, we've got new champions. I go with Miro. You said it exactly right. You can almost tell by the way he's been brought in, not immediately pushed, that they had so much special planned for him, and I think this is it. So I'm going to kind of leave it there because I think that's probably the right time. But yeah, really good product, like you said. Impact doing really well, fantastic pay-per-views during the worst era of our probably lives, that we've had to go through recently, and then AEW hitting record figures, arguably moving their biggest challenge in NXT to another night, and then becoming one of the biggest shows in cable. So both of our products. It's a good time for him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So so as we've just discussed, we'll do an in-depth, as we've decided, we'll do an in-depth guts and blood and guts show next show, which I may even push you over and do a little bit myself. Obviously, we'll review the highlights as we normally do from the past 4 weeks. We'll have a look at what the outcome of the show of Under Siege was, as well as if we do this beforehand, then we will do a look at Double or Nothing, or even we might do a special one-off Blood and Guts separate show, just as a separate, because obviously there's a lot to go through. We've got 3 pay-per-views that we're going to be talking about, so. I'd just like to say thank you to the Nick to my Matt Jackson. I was going to say for Impact, the Crazy Steve to my Black Taurus, for joining me once again on the second show. As I said, yes, we're a little bit raw. Yes, we could get better, and we will. It's just something that because we love the product, we are not squeaky clean, we're not polished. That's not what we are. No. That is what this network is. It's everyone have their own way, their own views, and we all come together to be on the John's podcasting network for you guys out there to check us all out. So before we say bye-bye, I'd just like to say again, thank you for Big Chocky T for joining me on this second episode. You'll be able to find us on YouTube, all your various platform podcasts, whether that be Anchor, whether that be Spotify or iTunes. Check us on our socials. We're on Instagram at Bear and Chocky T. We're on Twitter, Bear and Chocky T as well. Just type in the Bear and Chocky T wrestling recap. You'll be able to find us on there. We'll talk about other things, whether it be weekly shows, rumours on there as well. We'll also share various friends' interviews with stars from the Impact and AEW world, as well as just our thoughts on just generally what's going on for the weekly shows. So thank you very much for joining us. Again, you can check us on our socials, talk to us online there. You can also, we'll put the links in down there. You can also send us emails, also DM us any questions that you want us to answer for future episodes, or even anything that's just come up that you want to get our opinions on, which is always quite cool to do, because we want to broaden our horizons and not just talk about between me and Chris. We want to get the public out there, all the fans. So as I said, the last thing would be to do, as I said, plug Wrestling with Podders Network. We're on there, fantastic creators on there, articles, reviews, podcasts, interviews, you name it, we've all got you covered. So as I said, thank you very much. Check us out next week, and if not, next month. And if you want to check us out beforehand, just check us out on social media. And until then, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.